So after reading some of the comments recently, I thought I'd better put a suit on for today. Let's start by saying something that we're not allowed to say out loud. The British system is broken. And that's not because me and you and ordinary people have failed, but because the assumptions our governments operate under are no longer fit for purpose. We're constantly told that there's only one way forward, that we must endlessly grow the population, that we must import labour from across the world at scale, that we must expand welfare, expand the state, expand dependency, or everything collapses. Now that's one vision, but it's not the only vision, and it's clearly failing. The current system was built for a Britain that no longer exists. It assumed that people entered work early, that families stayed together, that retirement was short, welfare was temporary, and that communities took responsibility for themselves. None of that is true anymore. But instead of redesigning the system, our visionless leaders have simply doubled down on it. They've chosen growth over reform, quantity over cohesion, management over meaning. So I'm proposing a different vision. First, responsibility earlier in life. We've convinced ourselves that young people are fragile until the mid-20s and must be protected. They're not. 15-year-olds are super capable, they're very intelligent, and they want purpose as well as earning. Allowing young people to work, properly regulated, properly safeguarded, it's not exploitation, it's preparation for adulthood. Most of the child labour laws were written for the Victorian factories, not modern Britain. What we're really doing now is delaying responsibility and then acting surprised when people struggle later in life. A society that refuses to trust its young people is a society with no confidence in its future. Second, welfare must mean contribution. Welfare absolutely needs to exist as a safety net, but not as a lifestyle, not an identity, and not something that competes with work. If you're able-bodied and receiving support, you should serve society in return. Now that might mean maintaining parks and public spaces, all the dry stone walls, old council buildings that need a good paint, repairing infrastructure, civic duties, community support roles. And for those less able, there are home-based and assisted roles that still preserve their dignity and skills. This isn't punishment, it's reciprocity. If society carries you, you carry society, and by doing so, you remain part of it. Work must always be more rewarding than non-work. If it isn't, the system collapses under its own logic. Third, how we treat our elderly is a moral failure. We've normalised something deeply unnatural, sending our parents and grandparents away to die alone in institutions, out of sight and out of mind. Multi-generational care used to be normal. It reduced state costs, it strengthened families, and it passed wisdom down the line. Care homes should exist, but as a last resort, not the default destination of old age. A society that discards its elders teaches its young that they too are disposable. That is not a civilization, it's an administrative machine. Fourth, work longer, retire differently. People are living longer and healthier lives, but as a system, it treats like retirement as a cliff edge. What we should do instead is allow and encourage flexible work, reduced hours, mentorship roles, experience over exhaustion. Think of all that wisdom that we just discard. At the same time, personal pensions must be mandatory. The state pension should exist, like the welfare state, but as a safety net, not as a foundation for the whole structure. And then that reduces the burden on future generations. They no longer feel disenfranchised and resentful that they've got to go to work to pay for a load of people that have already had their lives. It restores personal responsibility without any cruelty. Now let's talk about the issue that everybody wants to avoid. Britain does not need infinite growth on a finite island. What we need is balance. Over a generation or two, with responsibility restored and dependency reduced, the population pyramid can stabilise naturally through normal life and death cycles. Simply look at the population of the British Isles in 1800, 10.5 million. Then look at it at the height of empire in the 1920s, 42.9 million. We're now hitting just about 70 million. It's not sustainable. Instead of panic policies, we need long-term thinking. And if we genuinely need to import labour, then we do it honestly and selectively. We look at the world and ask, who has a proven track record of loyalty to Britain? Who integrates? Who shares our civic values? Who has stood with us historically? I served in the British Army with men and women from across the Commonwealth who were prepared to fight and die for generations, for us, for the Crown, for the Commonwealth, for the West? Why are they not being brought over here in the droves? Seriously, importing people to help us in this country means starting with the Commonwealth, with people who have fought for Britain, built Britain and respected Britain. Selection is not immoral. Every serious nation in history has done it. Pretending otherwise is how we've got into this mess. Now, this vision is not about cruelty and it's not about exclusion. It's about not going backwards. It's about rebuilding a society based on responsibility, based on contribution, family, continuity, and trust in our own people. The current vision says that people are weak, dependent, and need managing. I don't believe that. I believe Britain works when people are needed, not managed. Now, this is a different vision, and I think it's long overdue. Let me know what you think.